Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and about a year and a half ago, Nokia Health sponsored a few videos here on the channel with some of their health devices. Nokia Health is now Withings, and those same devices are being sold under the Withings name, and they've come back to me to ask me to do an update on my weight loss story from last year. I'll put a link to that story down below in the video description. In a nutshell, I went from about 190 pounds or so to 150 pounds, and I've been able to maintain this weight now for probably 7 or 8 years. It's been a real accomplishment that I'm quite proud of, and I wanted to share with you how I'm able to maintain the weight by using these Withings products every day. In fact, I step on one of these scales every morning and I go through its data all the time to make sure that I am not falling off track and staying on my ideal weight. It gets a little more challenging the older you get, but so far so good, and I wanted to show you what I'm looking at and some changes I'm going to be making in the next couple of days to make sure I don't start creeping up higher than I want to, and you get all that data from the scale. So I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is a paid sponsorship from Withings. In fact, they are promoting their Body Plus scale this week. They've got a 20% off deal, and if you happen to miss the deal, you can use my coupon code Lon.20, and that will get you 20% off through July 17th, 2019. So you can get this scale for about $80. It normally sells for $100. That's a pretty good deal. And again, you'll get a lot of useful data out of it as well, far beyond just your weight, and I think it'll help you make some really good decisions. And I also wanted to add that Withings will be reviewing this video before it is uploaded for accuracy, and they also sent this scale to the channel free of charge. The prior scale I was using was sent through the Amazon Vine program. So let's get into it now and take a look at what my weight is looking like. So what you're looking at here is the Withings HealthMate app. This is what connects up to their scales and their other health devices. And you can see that right now my weight there at the top of the screen is at 151.6 pounds, about 152. That's a little bit more than I want to be. I want to keep myself at around 150, but I haven't gained much at all since we did the last update video. But there are some things I'm seeing in the data that concern me that will require me to make some changes to my diet, or at least be a little bit more aware of what I am eating. And I'll go through all of that in a minute. Now, the scales that provide the most data to you are the Body Plus scales, which is this one here. This is their mid-range product. It sells for about $99, and again, right now they've got the promotion going for $79. There's one more above this one called the Cardio that does all of the same data readings, but adds the ability to take your heart rate while you're standing on the scale. It's a little bit thinner and a little bit more attractive maybe, but not much different. And it also has a rechargeable battery. This one, the Body Plus, uses AAA batteries that will last you well over a year. In fact, my other scale, I've only charged it once in the entire 2.5 years that I've owned it. So they do last a while. When the batteries go, it'll give you an indicator that it's time to swap them out, and you should be good to go from there. So pretty low cost of ownership, no monthly fee for transferring your data in. And what's cool about the Body Plus and the Body Cardio scales is that it has the ability to measure your fat content and your muscle mass and your water level to figure out what are the components that make up your weight. And let's take a look at that right now and show you where my area of concern is. So let's jump back to the HealthMate app here, and I'm going to click on weight. And what that's going to do is give me a look at my weight on a chart since I started using these scales, which started around the midpoint of 2017. Looks like around July or so. So you can see there I was about 152 pounds, and I lost a little bit of weight as the summer went on there, which was great. And overall, I've been able to relatively keep my weight between 150 and 154 pounds over that period of time. The graph looks more pronounced because it's running at a relatively small scale there. If you look at my computer screen here, you can get a better feel for the fact that my weight has been relatively static over this period of time. But one of the things that I like about the mobile app is that because the way the chart is configured here, I can see when things are starting to go up a bit and I should be concerned. So you can see here on January 2nd, right after the holidays, I hit a high of 154.3 pounds. I don't think I have weighed that much since I lost my initial weight, and that really concerned me, and I decided to very quickly cut back the calories, try to exercise a little bit more, just get that weight down again, because I did not want to get out of control. So that was something that I was able to catch here just by watching that trend line over the course of the holiday period. And that trend line is really important because your weight will vary from one day to the next, but really it's what your weight is doing over time. And my suggestion is to weigh yourself in the morning. What I do is I get on the scale right before I get in the shower, so I'm at a consistent measuring point every day. If you weighed yourself at night one day and the morning the next, your data is not going to be as consistent. So I've been doing that, and that is what I see every morning when I hop on the scale. Now, what's been concerning me is the fact, though, that I'm still not at the 150 that I want to be. I'm trending higher than that most of the time. And I dove into the data that the scale was providing to me to figure out what's been going on. Now, again, I'm not looking at huge differences here, but a big chunk of my current weight gain, or at least weight over the 150 that I want to be, looks like it's due to fat content. In the past, my fat pounds were lower, which means if I make a few subtle changes now, I can get back to my goal weight here without having to go through more painful changes later. And I'm going to do that by keeping a close eye as to what I'm eating, both what I'm eating, but also the portion sizes, and also making sure that I'm not snacking too much. And if I am having a snack, it's a little bit more healthy than perhaps some of the snacks I've been noshing on over the last couple of weeks. My wife is very fortunate that she can pretty much eat whatever she wants and stays pretty consistent, but I have to be careful because if I start eating too much junk food, I'm going to start seeing those fat pounds continue to increase, and I am armed with some data now to be able to make some smart decisions to keep myself on the right track. Now, these scales require that you get on them barefoot in order to get that information pulled out, because in addition to just that fat content thing we were looking at a second ago, you also get your muscle mass, and you can see my muscle mass has kind of gone down a bit over time here too, so I need to maybe exercise a little bit more. And you also get a sense as to your bone mass. For women, especially as they age and osteoporosis becomes an issue, this is an important measurement to take as well to see how you're doing. By the way, you can export all this information and share it with your doctor as well if you're on a plan or something like that. Now, you'll notice here that I had a few gaps in my data. Namely, let me scroll back up here, namely the body fat here. You can see I had consistent readings one day after the other, and then there was a huge length of time here where there were none. What happened was I was getting lazy. I was getting on the scale in the morning, taking my weight, and I wasn't waiting for that second measurement to go through on the scale. So you do need to stand on the scale for a little bit to get that data back. What's cool is that once you stand on the scale long enough and it gets all that data, it will upload it. It will also give you a trend as to where your weight is going over the course of the last several measurements. So you can get a lot of things out of the scale without actually having to boot the app up. But you do need to stand on the scale long enough for those readings to take place. A couple other things I like about the scale is that it makes sure you're properly balanced on it. So if you are leaning in one direction or the other, it will prompt you to get yourself into the proper stance to be able to get the proper weight recorded. It also supports multiple users. Usually it identifies the user based on their weight, but if you have people in the house that are roughly the same weight, it'll give you the option to choose which user to assign those values to. So it's very good for a whole family to use without having to get multiple scales, and I found it to be very easy in our house to share it with my wife here, and now my daughter's starting to play around with it too. And the data that you collect can be used in other places. So for example, I have the data from the HealthMate app going over to Apple Health, which will link it up to other apps that are compatible with the Apple Health platform. It also works with Google Fit in the same way. The HealthMate app also connects with other apps directly. So for example, I might want to start tracking my calories again. I installed the MyFitnessPal app to do that. And if I click on the calorie thing here at the bottom, it's pulling that data in from MyFitnessPal. And I can go ahead and maybe add something else that I ate today. So I can hit the plus icon here, go to food. That will pull up MyFitnessPal. I can enter in what I ate, and it will keep everything in sync between the two. So you've got a lot of flexibility as to how you use this data, and you can also download it into a spreadsheet, which I was playing with a little bit earlier, just by going into your profile. And another cool thing they have is IFTTT integration, if this, then that. And what you can do is some crazy stuff, like if your weight gets above a certain level, maybe you set your refrigerator to lock itself or something. I don't know, but you can think of all these different things that can trigger some action being taken. What I've also been doing is just having the scale dump in my information to a Google spreadsheet every day so I can maybe manipulate the data a little bit easier. So you've got a lot of different things you can do with your data beyond the app that they provide to you, and I think that's very nice to have that kind of flexibility. Now, a lot of folks ask me how I got from this weight to where I am at now, and I think the biggest thing that helped me was going to a nutritionist. And if you have health insurance, I think a lot of insurance carriers cover this as part of your plan, so you might want to check with your insurance company or your employer to see what's available. Because for me, what I needed to do was learn how my body interacts with food, and everybody's body interacts differently with food. So get your physical at your doctor, get an idea as to what your cholesterol levels are and everything, and then go to a nutritionist and learn about food, learn the portion sizes that you should be having versus what you're eating, learn about the components of the food that you're eating and what that means for the calorie intake. So for example, you could have a salad at your favorite restaurant, but if they smother it with some fattening dressing, you've got a lot of unnecessary calories there. So maybe put the dressing on the side and dip in a little bit and not have this whole big pile of dressing dumped on your salad, for example. Those little things make a huge difference. And the other thing that I wanted to do was really do something that I could stick with, because I don't like going to the gym. I don't like lifting weights. I'm not this big burly guy. It's just not something I like to do. Some people really like going to the gym. For me, it just wasn't something I knew I was going to be able to do over the long term. So because I don't do a ton of exercise, it means that my caloric intake needs to match what my activity level is. And so what I do a lot of is walking. I've got a Siberian Husky. She's a very active dog that needs to be walked several times a day. I'm fortunate that I live in a very hilly area, so I can get a pretty good workout walking at a brisk pace with the dog. But I'm not getting a huge aerobic exercise level of workout every day. I do that occasionally, but it's something I just don't like to do. So I made sure that the food I was eating matched, again, my activity level. And then I looked at all the empty calories that were in my diet, the soda, the French fries, everything else that was getting smothered on my food. And I cut those unnecessary parts out so that I could occasionally enjoy the parts that I liked the best. So yes, I go to McDonald's every once in a while. I get a McDouble, and I bring one of my Pellegrino fizzy waters with me for the drive-thru so I don't order a soda. And for me, that's satisfying enough to get my McDonald's fix. When I go to the Chinese restaurant, I don't get the dish that I used to get, which was smothered in oil and sauce and everything. I get their steamed chicken and vegetable dish, and I put a little hot sauce on it. And for me, that's good enough. And it kind of, gets that itch scratched for Chinese food without adding a lot of unnecessary calories. It's also important to look at portion size. And that was a big part of what I learned from the nutritionist as to what you actually need versus what you consume. And when that plate at the restaurant gets delivered, first of all, I'm ordering something that is relatively healthy. But when I look at that plate, I decide, okay, I'm going to eat this much before I start eating. And when I get to that point, I push the plate aside, and a few minutes later, you'll actually feel full because you are full. Your body doesn't tell you right away when you've eaten too much. And all those things, that discipline, I think really made a big difference. But I was able to do it in a way that I didn't have to dramatically change my lifestyle, but I was able to learn how my lifestyle can be compatible with what I was eating, and that ultimately did the trick. And again, it's going to get harder for me as I get older. So I'm seeing that fat level increase a little bit on the scale here, and I need to start addressing that. Be honest with you, I've been not as disciplined the last month or two in what I've been eating, and it's starting to show up on here, and I'm glad that I'm able to see it early, again, before it becomes something that is harder to deal with. Now, everyone's situation is different. What worked for me may not work for you. It's important to know what your health issues are related to what you can and can't eat. So again, I would say go to the doctor, get your usual physical, and then I would make an appointment with a nutritionist, because it's important to just, again, not do a trendy diet, but do something that is going to be a lifestyle change. And to be honest with you, the lifestyle change is not as hard as you might think it would be. I was getting very frustrated for many years how I just wasn't losing any weight. And then when I finally focused on it and got an expert and got data, all that stuff really helped me get into a better place. And I kind of applied the same level of focus on myself as I applied to my business and my work areas where I was looking at data and applying that data to make better outcomes. And that's one of the things that I like about these Withings scales, is that they give me the data that I need to make the right decision. So I'm not just looking at weight and BMI, I'm looking at the components of my weight and making some changes from there, because I knew I was not eating the best over the last month or two, and the scale, through its data, has told me that. that. And now I'm going to make some changes to make sure that I stay on track here as I continue through my 40s and hopefully beyond. So I want to thank Withings for their continued support of the channel. These really are great products, and again, you can get them at a pretty good price right now through July 17th, and more details are down below in the video description, including a special link that you can use to go over to the Withings store that helps out the channel as well. So I want to thank you all for watching, and I'd love to entertain any additional questions you have about weight loss for follow-up videos. I don't typically talk about my personal health on YouTube, but it's definitely relevant here because technology has helped quite a bit with that, and I'm certainly eager to help all of you if you're looking to make some changes too. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Tom Albrecht, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.